Hey friends, thank you so much for being interested in learning a little bit more about Dear Future. I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. No, I'm not going to rush through it, but try to be effective in respect of your time. So I'll get started with it. This is going to be a little bit, I have a list of items I'd like to tell you about what Dear Future is, what we have. I have a few thank yous at the end. I'll get started. So I started this Dear Future in 2021, and we started in the country of Peru. This was the first nonprofit that I sort of dipped my toes into, and I wanted to start in a place where I would be a little bit more confident, and if I were going to cut my teeth anywhere, I think Peru was the right place. So in search of extreme poverty, I ventured into the Andes of Peru. In the mountain, there's a mountain region called Huánuco. We went into the city of Huánuco. And from there, went further into the mountains. Some of the schools are about 2.5 to 3 hours away from the center city, and a couple of those schools are sitting at about 10,500 to 12,000 feet of altitude, which is sometimes really difficult to walk. Our mission is to bring education and health to children living in extremely remote and extremely poor places of the world. This is what we stated to the IRS that we're going to do, and this is what we're doing right now. We currently work in the countries of Uganda, Peru, and Guatemala. As I mentioned to you, we started in Peru, and then shortly after, when we evaluated what our mission statement said that we're going to bring education to children in extremely remote and extremely poor, we asked the question of what does extremely poor truly mean? And the data all showed that extreme poverty and the largest inequality of education is in sub-Saharan countries, countries like Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, South Sudan, Sudan, Congo. But two or three of those countries are really difficult to access for us, unfortunately, because it's a really, really bad condition for children's education there. We added Guatemala just this year with a new partner that lives in Guatemala, and it has been really successful so far. We haven't done any giveaways yet, but we're prepared, and we funded most of the money that we needed to make that giveaway. Let's see, we have two programs. Our primary program is school materials to children, and our secondary program is hygienic pads to girls in Uganda. I'll explain each one of those in a little bit. We have also two activities. For almost since 2022, we have been doing a Postcards activity, which is a Penpal program between children in the United States with children in the countries that we work with. It has been incredibly successful. It's not part of our funding, so it's a relatively expensive thing to keep up and time consuming, but it has been so rewarding for both children in Peru as well as children in the countries that we work with. It's been a really amazing program. There's a lot to tell in that, very many anecdotes, and just the smiles of the children when they receive their postcards in both the United States and in our countries that we work. It's really wonderful. For the third year now, we've launched a program called Literary Attorney, like a literature attorney, in which children write. The whole point of the program is to encourage children in the remote areas to do writing, both in their own languages. So in Uganda, we do writing in English, because the official language here is English. And in Peru, we do writing in Spanish. I ask people that I know if they could do judging and read the relatively simple entries. This year's theme, for example, is to write a letter to myself in the future, which I think is a really wonderful thought, to think of who I want to be in the future. And so the letters are maybe 200 to 500 words long, relatively simple thing to do, but it encourages the children to write, which is one of their largest skills that they need to have, and in some of the school is one of the largest disadvantages because they just don't achieve the level to write. Let's talk a little bit about our school materials. How these programs started was when, in my research going into the mountains of Peru, I realized that poverty hit at the very last mile of education. So some of the governments take care of the infrastructure, the qualifications of the teacher, making sure the teachers have their salaries, but what I call the very last mile, the actual child that shows up to school, we found out that a lot of them, many of them, and the greatest majority actually, showed up to school empty-handed. And what I consider empty-handed is when they showed up. Sometimes they showed up with one notebook, or like not even one notebook, but the last notebook they used last year with maybe half of the pages, a quarter of a pencil, if not a half of a pencil, whatever was left from last year. No erasers, no sharpeners, no extra anything else. And what I heard, the feedback that I heard from the teachers was that they struggled to teach because it was really difficult to learn and in the future test if the children were not able to take notes and practice their writing. And so I sort of grabbed onto that idea, and I knew that throughout the Andes of Peru, the further you go, considering the fact that people there live in traditional economies, they don't necessarily have access to cash, and it becomes a lot more difficult to buy necessities for school. And so a lot of them have to sort of juggle from necessities for life, like soap, toothbrush, toothpaste, and a couple of necessities for life and necessities for school. And sometimes the priorities are skewed. And so we grabbed onto that, and we figured out the school materials was something that was absolutely necessary for children. And what I really liked about it, and I realized later, was that in hindsight, this is probably one of the best things for us to do, considering we leverage very small amounts of budget, but the money that we spend in materials goes directly to the child. There's no intermediary. There's no question on whether the money was applied or not applied. Like, for example, if you launch a program to educate teachers, you don't know if the education it's good, but we know that students are using their notebooks and pencils because our allies, our partners, are the teachers that need those books for their classes to be successful. So it's been a really wonderful program. It's really important. Yesterday, while visiting Wisdom Primary, which is our first school that we are visiting this year in Uganda, I learned that children only had access to one color of like a color and pencil. They don't have access to crayons and other things. And children at a very early age, they need those crayons to be able to like develop their fine motor skills through art and through coloring within the lines and things like that. And so I really love the idea that we're providing these children access to some of the items that otherwise they would have not had. Okay. Our second program is hygienic pads to girls. We started the program almost right away as soon as we arrived in Uganda. I learned the moment I set foot in Uganda that girls were struggling with going to school because they did not have access to basic and foundational tools for when they begin menstruating, hygienic pads. And so, and when they go through their menstruation, they have to either stay at home or they have to figure out ways to go to school. Some of these ways were like use sponges or grass. Cotton is very popular, but whatever is like accessible to them to be able to like pat their panties down and go to school for a few hours. Sometimes they needed to do that to take a test and then immediately leave. In many cases, I was told that they go to the corner to try to kind of wash up every so often, but it becomes a real big struggle for them to become educated. In their greatest majority, they just simply stay home, and is one of the reasons why they eventually choose to not go to school any longer, because it's a choice and it's an option. It's not like for our culture in which education is not really, quitting is not an option. You have to make some pretty drastic choices for you to quit going to school. Here is, if I can't buy a notebook, I just might not go to school altogether. And so what we do is we started bringing or providing disposable hygienic pads to girls, and we used to give hygienic pads every 2 months, 2 packs every 2 months, to be able to support them through their months. And this became really heavy on logistics and a continuous flow of cash. And we were really growing to more girls. And most importantly, we're not supporting the same girls for long periods of time. We were just sort of doing like little bits at a time. And so in 2024, last year, we dipped our toes into, we didn't dip our toes. We decided as the board of directors to make a complete switch to reusable hygienic pads. Reusables are so much better for the environment. They are prolonged support. So we chose AfriPads as our supplier for reusable hygienic pads. And AfriPads guarantees a minimum of 2 years if the pads are washed properly and used properly. And in conversations with their engineering department, when I visited them, they told me they've seen pads last 4 to 5 years, but they just simply don't want to write that down in their literature. They draw the line at 2 years, and this is the same thing that we do. And so we switched to reusable hygienic pads, which are better for the environment. They give them a long duration of 2 years, and the girls are so much happier with that. Along with the reusable hygienic pads, we also provide them education on how to use them, how to dry them, how to wash them, which is incredibly important to make sure that the pads are used correctly. But our instructors, which is in partnership with local NGOs or nonprofits, they use this opportunity to discuss other very important subjects, like, for example, early pregnancy, early marriage, diseases, HIV/AIDS, which is a really bad problem in Africa, as you guys probably already know. There are very unfortunate situations that happen to girls. If you want to discuss it, call me and I can tell you about some of these challenges. But they're very sad situations that happen to girls because they begin menstruating, and the culture is not ready or is not as advanced to understand what this is. They also utilize these classes to teach them about their bodies, to teach them about their mind, because when they begin menstruating, they're changing hormonally, and their bodies also are changing. And so our teachers, which by the way are females, have these discussions with these girls so they understand, because not even their parents, and in some cases not even the teachers, have these conversations with them. We did a survey a few months ago about how we were doing, and the largest request, or the largest number of responses were to the question of, would you be interested in having more conversations about this subject? And it was like a resounding 90% of the girls said that yes, they were interested in that. So it has been a very successful program. Also, the shortcoming for this program is funding, obviously. We have a really good system. I'll speak a little bit about both programs. We have really good systems in partnership with people here in Uganda, NGOs or nonprofits here in Uganda. Our primary partner is Empathy Children Initiative, and a friend of mine called Henry Katinda is the founder and the CEO of that nonprofit. And with his family and his sister, we have trained many people. His sister is a trainer. She became qualified by AfriPads, the company that sells us the pads. They did a class. They qualified her. They also qualified a couple other people with a couple other partners of ours in Uganda, for us to be able to provide these pads. So this is a really big program for us, a really important program that we would like to continue doing. We're not going to really stop until we have zero cash. So that's about it. Okay, so I'm going to move on. Aside of the activities, we also have a partnership activity right now. We are building a high school. We are building a high school in East Uganda, in the region of Mayuge, in partnership with Empathy Children Initiative and Henry Katinda. Henry Katinda's dream was to be able to build a high school to provide access to the children that live in his community. Children in this community don't have access to nearby high schools. They have to walk 2, 3, or sometimes 4 hours the further they go to get to the cheaper high schools that are accessible to them. And even a cheap high school, the cost is about 250,000, 300,000 shillings, Ugandan shillings per term. So about 900,000, almost 1 million shillings per term. About 330,000 shillings is $100. And so this is completely out of the range for them to be able to afford. And the ones that can afford it, they have to walk long distances. And so his dream was to build a high school in his community where it's surrounded by primary schools that we help, and they become feeders to this high school. We're in the process of building it. We are 95% sure we're going to be opening doors in February of 2025. And if you have seen some of our posts, you have seen invitations to make donations to that construction. So it's a really exciting. By the way, this is the second school that we would have built in Uganda. The first school was a Dear Future program that was in 2023. We opened doors in February of 2023. Sorry, we opened doors in February of 2024. We built it in 2023. fundraised and built in 2023. And it's a primary school. Now it houses about 230 students. And we endowed that school to the Namuga Mabel Foundation, our very first partner in Uganda, who is now thriving, and they're doing so well in this nonprofit school. Hey friends, we're at the site of Empathy High School. This is a collaborative effort that we've been doing with Empathy Children Initiative and our friend Henry Katinda, where I'm going to show you what's happening. For a little while, we've been stuck on construction because there was a scarcity of lumber, and we just couldn't move forward, and everything went up in price really bad. So today, I'm happy to show you that the construction is moving. We're already putting on the timber or lumber necessary to make the roof.
Where we were stuck before was at the the construction is still going to happen.
But it's more manageable to only start with 2 classes. I'm going to take you now to the water site. Next thing, so building our partners. I think I talked a little bit about our partners. So the Namuga Mabel Foundation was our very first partner here in Uganda. They help us as much as they can, particularly with the distribution of hygienic pads in this region. Our second partner is Empathy Children Initiative, which eventually became our largest partner in Uganda. Their goal is to take care of children. They have an orphanage in at their facility. We're building a high school with them, but through them, we're providing hygienic pads to girls in the community, which number on the tens of thousands. We haven't even begun to scratch the potential of help that we can do. And through them also, we have access to the government schools that are in the area of Mayuge. We have a partnership with a council member in the western region. It's called Region 5 of Uganda. It's a good friend of mine. Actually, his brother, a police officer in Uganda, is a really great friend of mine. He introduced me to his brother, who is a council member and runs also a local nonprofit in their area. And through them, we distribute also school materials. In Peru, our primary partners are the educators, the teachers, and the principals, which they're basically our allies in making the education happen. Our primary delivery system is school materials in Peru, and it's almost like a great symbiotic system because they need both the teachers as well as the students need school materials. And as the years progressed, we began giving the schools also materials that they needed, like dry erase markers, glue, some types of like construction paper. And then we also shifted some of the items that the students got, like pencils, for example, to the school, in which we assigned 6 pencils to every child. But on the giveaway day, they got 1 pencil, and the school kept the other 5, or 5 or 4, depending on if we gave 1 or 2 to the child. And the mission or the idea was so the children don't lose their pencils, and the schools have access to extras. So in Peru, the teachers are our primary partnerships. The teachers in the school, the principal is what I wanted to say, primarily. We have a really well set up system, sort of like administrative system for a nonprofit. We have a fantastic donation management system. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization, which means that any donations that you provide are tax deductible, and your receipts are going to have the evidence of your donation, including our EIN, our nonprofit number, exemption number from the IRS, which allows you to make those deductions on your taxes. Our website, it's relatively good. Please go check it out. If you see any misspelled words or anything that could be changed, let me know. It's very much a one-man show when it comes to operations administrative. So admin, donation management systems, the Google systems, all of the running systems are managed by myself, and I also do these operations. However, I want to send a shout out to Walter Flores, which is our financial director, director of finance. He has a degree in economics. He's worked for the Peace Corps, and he wanted to help with his skills, and he became the money guy for Dear Future. So he tracks all the expenses. He does all of the finance things to make sure that we stayed on the straight and narrow. Our supporters, I want to send some thank yous to like Bill Bowerly from Edward Jones, who have been a big supporter both in information. He's our financial advisor to when we're trying to make any we don't move large amounts of money, but moving money needs to be smart, and we try to be as smart as possible in how we use our money. Let's see, Bruce Biltong is another person another organization that has helped us quite a bit in throughout what we do, as well as with our raffles. Some nonprofit partners, people that help us in many things. Our very first partnership in nonprofit was a school in Austin, Texas. It's called Mariposa's Spanish School for Children. Spanish School for Children, yes. They were the very first ones to say yes to our postcard program, and we have been working together ever since. The Namuga Mabel Foundation was our first partner in Uganda. Empathy Children Initiative, already talked about those two. We started working with an organization in Jordan in the Middle East. We did not hygienic pads, postcards with them, and they also participated in our literature tournaments. I haven't been able to work my way there to see if there's any additional way that we can grow our support for these girls. What they do, they intake girls that come from very, very poor families that are refugees from different locations of the world. Jordan being a very stable country, many people from Palestine or Syria, or even as far in Africa, like South Sudan, which is impacted by really terrible conflict, they migrate to Jordan seeking refuge and peace. And so Squash Dreamers helps girls become educated. It helps them with their homework and teaches them how to play squash, which is a medium for them to teach self-confidence and introduce a sport into their lives. Stolen Sun Dual Language Academy has been our partner recently to work in the area of Guatemala. So thank you so much. And specifically in Guatemala as well, we received a pretty nice donation from South Valley Community Church in California, in Lemoore, California. Thank you so much as well for allowing us to sort of build our dream. Our director, our Guatemalan director, Brenda, her dream was to help children the way we help children. And so this has become a reality. Thank you to South Valley Community Church. I think that was a big fire hose and mouthful of who Dear Future is, what we do. I wanted to make sure that I put things out there to just so people understand that we're deeper than what the surface shows, and what we do is really wonderful. Our programs are amazing. I can talk about our school materials program and the necessity for hours. Children are impacted in a really deep manner in these faraway places like the mountains of Peru, or in these remote areas of Uganda, and also the remote areas of Guatemala that we work in, and many, many more places. This is just the ones that we're working on. If you ask me what's my goal and what's my dream, immediately my dream is to grow this company to a place that it can provide not just not running sort of like a paycheck to paycheck on buying school materials, but we would like to have a stability to, like, without a question, know that we're going to provide the same support year after year for children. And in regards to where would I like to go next, which is a question children ask me all the time in the United States, my wish is to start working in the western region of Kenya, near where the Maasai tribes are, which have changed their perspective into for education. Being a nomadic tribe, the Maasai Mara they used to like not send their children to school because they, as nomads, they would move everywhere. But I don't know what's changed in this last couple decades, or maybe just this last decade, in which these nomadic tribes have decided to educate their children. And even though they haven't changed the fact that they're nomads because they have to feed their animals, they're moving more closely surrounding the schools so their kids can go to school. And I would like to be part of that change, support them in whatever way we can. That's it. Thank you so much. As always, I love you very much. And if you made it this far, please let me know. Thank you for listening. I'll figure out a way to thank you with something. Make a donation if you can, please. Website is www.dear-future.org. Thank you so much. Bye.